we're going to be solving literal equations. Our first example, there's a sharpener in the back, electric sharpener. If you notice, it says solve each equation below for x. Well, this one is x, and this one is x. Okay. Where there's a number being multiplied by x, and then they're subtracting a number, but here it's a number, here is a variable. Then it equals, here's a number, and here's a variable. So let's solve for x on the left side like we usually do, like we've done before. We always want to start on the same side where the variable is, so it's on the left side. So I'm going to cover the right side so I don't get confused. And on this left side, what is the first thing we should do there? Gabriela, what should we do? Plus 5, very good. So plus 5, what I do to one side, I do to the other, plus 5. 13 plus 5, 18. Bring down the 2x, that is left. Well, look at this other one. I'm going to take a pause there and let's go back to this literal equation. A literal equation, as you can tell, all of them are letters or variables, and a regular equation, only one of them is a variable. So that's a difference. We would still solve it the same way. If I'm solving for x, then I would focus on the left side. So on this left side, Maxine, what would I get rid of first? We're solving for x. The a is being multiplied by the x, and then we're subtracting a b. So what do I get rid of first? The b, by doing what? Since we're subtracting, yes, the opposite is to add. You knew that, right, Maxine? It wasn't because that guy told you? Okay. So he messed you up? Okay. All right, bring down the ax. And then can I add c and b together? Will it give me a new number? No, those are not like terms, so we don't know what they represent. So all you can do is write them next to each other, that if I knew what they were, I would add them. Here I was able to add 13 plus 5, but here I can't. These are regular numbers. These are variables that are not like terms, so we cannot combine them. All right, let's go back to the first equation. Our variable is still on the left side, so Santiago, now what do we have to do? Okay, get rid of what though? By doing what? Thank you. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X equals 9. There is a number, and we can check it. Now, go back to the literal equation. Our x is still on the left side, so I would focus on the left side. It is being multiplied by a, so Brandon, what do we have to do? We're still solving for x, so we want to get rid of the a by doing what? What's happening between the a and the x? They're right next to each other. They're touching. What does that mean? They're multiplying. So to get rid of the a, what do I have to do? Divide. So we're going to divide by a. A divided by a, I don't know what it stands for, but it's the same number, whatever number it stands for. So when I divide two numbers that are exactly the same, they give me a 1. Well, if I divide on one side, I have to divide on the other. Everything needs to be divided. So it's c plus b divided by a. I cannot do any math, like I cannot actually add them and divide them because I don't know what they represent, so I can only set it up. So if I knew what it was, I would substitute and then get the answer, but that's not what we're doing today. It says identify the similarities and differences between the two equations. So let's do similarities. What were the similarities between these two? Very good. It was the same steps. We're still going to be doing inverse operations. Meaning whatever is going on in the equation, in order to cancel out numbers, we're going to have to do the opposite. If I have a minus 5, the opposite is to add, and so on. Even if I have a minus b, then the opposite is to add a b. Any other similarities? All right, let's go with some differences then. Somebody give me a difference. Matthew, can you give me a difference? Okay, so 1 we actually get to add. What about the answer? It's different, right? So in 1 we actually got to do some arithmetic, like he said. We actually got to add. In the other one, we were only able to set it up. Giselle, were you going to give me another difference? Very good. The one on the left, it has numbers. And the other has only variables or letters, right? That's why in the first one we can do arithmetic, but in the second one all we can do is set it up. And then one last thing, guys, the answer or the answers, 1 is actually a number, and the second or the other is an equation. Do you see that? We ended up with an equation, not with an actual answer where it says x equals a number. Those are some differences. Okay, so let's add to the top just some extra notes to remember. Start where the variable is. Identify the operation that is happening, operation or operations that are going on, and then do the inverse operation. Okay, just stick with that and we should be good. Let's do number 1 together. Actually, we're going to do a few of them together just to help us understand. Alright, so on number 1 it says solve for W. So if it helps you, you can circle W, or you can make a little arrow that says this is the one I want. What it means is that we want to get W by itself or isolated. So I'm going to cover the left side so it doesn't throw me off. I know I should always start where the variable is, so on this right side. Xander, what should I get rid of on this right side? That's an L. So the L, and how do I get rid of that L? What's happening between the L and the W? If they're touching, that is, so to get rid of it, we're going to divide. Very good. And they're touching, they're multiplying, so the opposite of multiplication or the inverse operation is to divide. If I divide on one side of the equal sign, I have to divide on the other side of the equal sign. Well, L divided by L will cancel each other out to divide to a 1, which will give me 1 times W is W. And then A divided by L cannot be mathematically calculated, just set up. So in a way, this is easier because you actually don't have to do the math, you just have to set it up. Just make sure you're doing the right steps. So let's try it again. Number 3 is very similar to number 1. We're solving for T, so there it is. You can put a little arrow or circle it. If I want T by itself, I'm going to cover the left side because he's on the right, and then Carlos, what are we going to do? By? We're solving for T, so we're going to divide by R. If I do to one side, I do to the other. Divide by R. The R's will cancel out. I'm left with T equals D divided by R. So in a way, it's a little easier. Certain things. Number 5, draw your line going down. We're solving for H. Lindsay, I'm going to cover the left side. On this right side, what do we want to do? Circle the A. That's what we're going to start. Alright, then what do we want to do? you actually can. Because all of these are being multiplied, I can just divide by 2 at a time. Good question, Lindsay. If I divide by LNW on one side, I divide by LNW on the other. The L and the L will cancel out. The W and the W will cancel out. We are left with the H. So H equals V divided by LNW. H is by itself, so we know we can stop. Yep, pretty much. 7. Solving for C. There's my C. Angel Ortiz. What do we have to do? Very good. We have a minus S. Add an S. Add an S. Can I add M to S? Mathematically, I can't really do anything other than just set it up. So just put them next to each other. Shortcut though, this only works for adding or subtracting, okay? If I have minus S, you can just switch it to the other side, but make sure you switch the sign. So switch sides, switch signs. And then you're done. C is by itself, so we can stop. Questions? Turn it over. Alright, top side is just some helpful hints. Think backwards from PEMDAS. And you'll see what I mean right now. Next, remove fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal. Very important. We're going to be multiplying by the reciprocal to get rid of a fraction. So if it's 2 over 3, we would flip it over, and it would be 3 over 2. So we would multiply by 3 over 2. Let's do number 9. We're going to solve for H. There is H. So I need to get rid of the half and the B. It doesn't matter which one I start with because they're both being multiplied. So it doesn't matter which one. So Fabricio, which one do you want to start with? Which one? 1/2. Okay, how do we get rid of a 1/2? Very good. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1. If I multiply on one side, I multiply on the other, times 2 over 1. Well, 2 divided by 2 will give me 1, and 1 times anything or divided by 1 doesn't really change our values, so it's just BH. Or if you could think of it, it cancels each other out, but 1 doesn't really do much. Bring down what's on the left side. 2 times A is A, and then you really don't need the 1 underneath because 2 divided by 1 is just 2. So you can just multiply by 2 and that's enough. We still want H by itself. So what do we have to do now, Matthew Ramos? Divide. Very good. What did I do to one side, do to the other? We're dividing by B. Cross out the B. They cancel each other out on the right, and I'm left with 2 times A over B on the left, and H by itself on the right. H is by itself, so we can stop. That is our answer. We're going to do it again. Solving for M. Giselle. It actually doesn't matter which one we get rid of here. So I want M by itself, and it's being multiplied by B squared and divided by 2. In order of operation, multiplication and division are interchangeable, so it actually doesn't matter which one you do first. I suggest the divided by 2 to get rid of that one first. Just makes it look neater. So if I want to get rid of divided by 2 there, Giselle, what do we have to do? Times 2. So multiply times 2. What do I do to one side, do to the other? Times 2. So this is 2k equals, and now there's no divided by 2 on the bottom, so just leave it as mb squared, just the top. Kaylee, now what do we do? Very good. What is happening between the m and the v? So to get rid of it, we? Very good. So we divide, but I don't want to just get rid of the v. The v comes with its exponent, so the exponent has to go with it. That way when I divide, it's the exact same value, and they divide evenly. But if I divide on one side, I have to divide on the other. M equals 2 times k over v squared. Alright. Number 13. We're solving for w. So here it is. The 2 is multiplying by the w, and then it's adding a 2L. So multiplication has a higher order in order of operation, right? Multiplication comes before addition or subtraction. So we always, when we solve, we have to go backwards. So if multiplication is stronger, then we leave that one to the end and we focus on adding or subtracting. So we're going to get rid of the 2L first. So again, like I told you before, then the 2 would be the wife and then the 2L would be the girlfriend. So we get rid of what first, Daniel? What would we get rid of? I mean, Dominic, sorry. What would we get rid of first here? We're solving for W. The what? Okay, again, I just said it. Please pay attention. The 2 is the wife, the 2L is the girlfriend, so we get rid of what first? Yes, so the 2L, right? By doing what? What? Minus 2L. If I subtract on one side, I subtract on the other. Now I cannot actually subtract these, so they just go next to each other. And I'm left with a 2W. Now the reason I could subtract it and not divide it, Dominic, it's because this is not being multiplied to the W. The 2 is being multiplied, but the 2L is positive and it's being added. So that's why we can subtract, okay? So we can get to 0, and then it zeroes out on one side, and then on the other I have to do the math, so I still have that. Alright, almost done. Alan, what do we have to do next to get W by itself? Divide by 2. What I do to one side, do to the other, but everything needs to be divided by 2. So our answer is P minus 2L all over 2. This is the answer I want. This is how I want you to leave it in the homework. 14 is very similar to number 13. Just watch out, because in the quiz, they might simplify it. They might not. Most of the time they don't. But just so you know, they could break this up into 2 fractions. So when they divide by 2, they can split it into P divided by 2 and 2L divided by 2. Since there were the 2 things that were on the left side. And P divided by 2, it cannot be simplified, so it stays. But 2 divided by 2 does simplify to give me a 1, which is L. So both those answers are correct. Just watch out. I'd rather you leave it like this, so there's no room for mistakes. But just watch out in case of the answer, you have 2 answer choices, or a different answer choice that you don't have. You get this answer, and then it looks like that on the quiz. So just watch out. All right, almost done. Solving for x. So there's my x. M is touching the x, so that's the wife. So the plus B must be the girlfriend. So Jesus, what are we going to have to do? Minus B. Very good. B minus B is 0. And on the right side, y minus B. Or just move the B over, switch it to a minus. Then what do we do there, Michelle? They're touching, so touching is multiplication, so we're going to divide. So we divide by m, because that's the one we're trying to cancel out. Divide by m. Bring down what's left, vx, the y minus b over m. Alright, almost done. Last one, yay! We're solving for f, so there is our f. Because the f has parentheses around it, the 32 is the wife and the 5/9 is the girlfriend, because parentheses are holding this one together and they're higher order in the order of operation. So to get rid of, we actually would have to start with the 5/9. How do we get rid of the 5/9, Janelle? The reciprocal, so multiply by the reciprocal. I do to one side, do to 9ths times 9s will so they're out, or 9 divided by 9 is 1, divided by 5 is 1. So we're left with f minus 32. Since there's nothing outside the parentheses, I don't need to rewrite the parentheses. Bring it on the left. 9/5 times c, 9/5 c. Last thing, d, what? No, okay? Costa, last thing to do there is to do, oh, Costa. Gabriela? Very good. Plus 30 to one side, the other plus 2. They cannot add because they're not like triangles. They just go next to each other. 9/5 plus 32. 9/5 have a C, 32 doesn't, so just hopefully this recorded well because it froze, so we'll see. Alright guys, the even numbers are your homework, front and back. I will be walking around, so if you need help, let me know.